Good evening. It's Wednesday, August 5th, 2020 at 6:02 p.m. Calling the Lakeville Board of Health meeting to order. Is there anyone recording this other than LakeCAM? I hear no one for the record. In accordance with Governor's order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law related to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency, the August 5th, 2020 meeting at 6 p.m. public meeting of the Board of Health shall be physically closed to the public to avoid group congregation. However, to view this meeting in progress, please go to www.facebook.com/LakeCAM. You do not need a Facebook account to view this meeting. This meeting will be recorded and available to be viewed at a later date at http://www.lakecam.tv/. I have one more thing to read, if I can find it. Just hold on one second with me. I have a pile of papers tonight. Okay, I found it. Permit me to confirm that all members, staff, persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. When I call your name, please respond in affirmative. This is to the members. Chris Spratt. Chris, can you hear me?
Affirmative. Sorry to unmute. Sorry.
Okay. Bob Palucci, can you hear me?
Yep, I'm here.
Edward Cullen, Board of Health agent, can you hear me?
Affirmative.
Okay. We have a bunch of people on the agenda tonight, so I'm just going to start with the first engineer to make sure he is on with us currently and can hear us. That would be Zenith Consulting Engineers. Are you on the line?
Yes, Jamie Bissonette.
Okay, Jamie. Is anyone else on the line to discuss 141 Main Street? And can they hear us?
I am also here for 141 Main Street.
Okay. Is the owner or anyone else here tonight also?
For full Potterhouse, Murray Wackenheim is here, and so is attorney Michael O'Shaughnessy. For 141 Main Street, I do not see the owner present.
Okay. All right. I'm going to just read a little introduction. The order you can find posted with agenda materials for this meeting allows public bodies to meet entirely remotely, so as long as reasonable public access is afforded, so the public can follow along with deliberations of the meeting. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless participation is required by law. We are allowing participation on Facebook, which I've read previous. For this meeting, the Lakeville Board of Health is convening by video conference via Zoom, posted on the town's website. First on the agenda is 4 Old Potterhouse Road. It was continued from last meeting because it was posted incorrectly. I believe we have that taken care of. I'll turn it over to Jamie Bissonette from Zenith Consulting Engineers for opening statement.
All right. Good evening, Jamie Bissonette from Zenith Consulting Engineers. Along with me tonight is attorney Michael O'Shaughnessy, and the owner, Mr. Murray Wackenheim, is also present. If the chairman would allow, I'd like to share the screen so we can kind of go over the plan and the 3 variances that we're requesting.
Yes. Go ahead.
Okay. So the three variances that we're requesting, the first one is a reduction from 100 feet to 64 feet from a soil absorption system to a wetland bordering a surface water supply or tributary thereto. The second is a variance from a septic tank from 100 feet to 52 feet from a septic tank to a wetland bordering a surface water supply or tributary thereto. And the third is a variance from the Lakeville Board of Health regulation that requires the lot have 20,000 square feet of upland acreage for both a water supply and a septic system or sewage disposal system as described. So I've scrolled over to the plan itself. This plan or this property has been in front of the board a couple of times over the years. It's got a lot of history. The folder is very thick. And so we wanted to talk about the plan, what we did to design it, and how we feel that we're meeting the requirements for justification for the variances. If I may, I'd like to pull up, well, let's go through the plan first, I guess. What we're doing is we're proposing a 3-bedroom home with a garage, associated driveway, and a septic system. Now with the septic system, we're proposing an advanced treatment microfast 0.5 unit with Caltech chambers and trench configuration. They're the units 202, so they're essentially 2 feet high and the bottom's about 2 feet wide each. And with this size system, we completely conform size-wise to Title V. The fast system is approved for denitrification, but it's a fantastic advanced treatment unit that in this case, we're proposing an underground blower system. So there won't be really any noise around the system itself. There'll just be a vent for the leaching field, and there'll be I believe it's 2 vents for the treatment system itself. And please note that the well is already existing on the property. It was put in years and years ago under a previous permit. Now, what we did was we had done some additional test pits. So there's been several test pits done over the years. I believe Rick Sharon had done some test pits in the 80s. I believe that some test pits were done by GAF. I know Mr. Bill Sylvia did some test pits out here with Perks, and also Niles from my office did some test pits out here in 2019 November to just confirm soil types and water table, etc. We found nice soils. I believe something that we would agree falls in the 4-minute and inch range, which is what Bill Sylvia got back in 1997 on the test pit there. Now, if I may, I'd like to go over to the variance information and kind of go over the standard of review. Can everybody see this page?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So 15.410 is Title V, and it talks about the standard of review for a variance. And so, as you can see, it says the local approving authority and the department may vary the application of any provisions from 310 CMR 15 with respect to any particular case except those listed in 15.415. Variances for increased flow to existing systems shall be governed by the provision of 15.414. Variances to school shall be governed by the provisions of 15.416. And variances shall be granted only when, in the opinion of the approving authority, A, the person requesting a variance has established that enforcement of the provisions of 310 CMR 15 from which a variance is sought would be manifestly unjust, considering all relevant facts and circumstances of the individual case, and the person requesting a variance has established that a level of environmental protection that is at least equivalent to that provided under 310 CMR 15 can be achieved without strict application of the provisions set forth in 310 CMR 15 from which the variances are sought. So what we want to, and also with regards to variances for new construction, enforcement of the provision from which a variance is sought must be shown to deprive the applicant of substantially all beneficial use of the subject property in order to be manifestly unjust. So what we wanted to talk about with this tonight is that the house is located in a residential zone. It's in a subdivision, and it had a permit issued back in the 80s, I believe 1986. And I'm going to pull up that plan if I may. Here's the plan, stamped approved by the Board of Health. In 1986, this plan was approved with a septic for a 4-bedroom house. Subsequently, when the permit was issued, a permit was also issued, which is right here. And I believe it's a Mr. Williams drilled the well in 1987 on site. This is the permit issued from the town. At that time, they were able to meet what was the old version of Title V. Of course, in 1995, the regulations changed. We understand that, but this lot was still in existence with that change. We believe that this meets the requirements for a variance because the allowed uses in a residential zone are residential uses. Not allowing a residential house here essentially wipes out the ability to use the property. And so what we've done to meet the requirement under the variance protocol for level of environmental protection is the advanced treatment system, which under new construction, if you were meeting all of Title V, is not required. In fact, I believe the Lakeville Board of Health's policy is if you're less than 100 feet to 3 abutting wells, that's when you're looking for a treatment system like this. We're not within 100 feet of any abutting wells. We're just going to be less than 100 feet to the abutting wetland that abuts a road and a body of water across that road. And so we feel that this advanced treatment system is definitely meeting the level of environmental protection as required to justify the variance. I don't know if anyone has any questions for me at this point.
I guess I can start, Jamie, with you. I guess some. Obviously, it was denied a couple times before by other boards in 2001.
Yes.
And then after that, it actually went back in front of that board and they rescinded it and asked to vote on it again by the members. And then in 2002, they denied it. Again, the file there's over 500 pages here, so I'm not going to be able to find every one of these tonight. And
sure.
But I've read all 500 pages.
Mm-hmm.
So I've read all the meeting minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And for different reasons, it was denied. For 70,000 square foot, it didn't meet, which they first rescinded that one. It went to another one. I believe they denied it on, is it the 20,000 square feet, Jamie? Do you know these off the top of your head? The second denial?
No, not in chronological order. I know at one they denied it for the all of the requested variances at the time, and the 20,000 square feet was also part of one of the denials. Yes.
And then it came back in 2004 again, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it was denied. The reasoning was, I think it just said, we don't allow variances on new construction, was their denial in the meeting minutes.
Yep.
And then I believe there was some legal appeal on that. Do you have that, Jamie?
Yes, we do. I'll pull that up. So there was a civil case with Mr. Murray Wackenheim against the town of Lakeville in 2004, on which it is that the case was actually remanded back to the Board of Health, with my understanding being that the denial must be based on a more solid ground than the decision now before me. And he said that it is arbitrary in that no variances are permitted within 100 feet of the wetlands, was the judge's decision, as you can see here in front of you.
Doesn't that seem incomplete though?
I don't know what you mean, Chris. I'm sorry.
Because it's not just 100 feet of a wetland; it's 100 feet of a tributary to a drinking water supply.
Well, it's not. It's 100 feet to a wetland bordering a tributary. The wetland itself is not the tributary. The tributary is a flowing body of water. So the tributary actually has a 200-foot zone A around it, and the pond has a 400-foot zone A around it. We're within the 100 feet of the wetland abutting a tributary or a surface water supply.
But what I think he's saying is it's not a typical wetland. This is a far more sensitive wetland.
Oh, sure. And yeah, and all of
and it is hydraulically connected
sure.
to Long Pond and to Assawamsett.
Yes. Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Yeah,
I think surface and ground probably, but I'd say surface. I mean, there's a pipe under Highland, and then there's a pipe under 18 too.
Yeah, but Chris, I think you're going to find that if you look through the packages that Kopelman and Page had put together as part of this case, they referenced all of that information. There's, like Derek said, there's hundreds of pages on this case. There was really nothing that was brushed over. They talked about variances when regulations in the towns changed. Derek, I mean, you're in agreement with me on that, correct?
Correct. There's a huge amount of information in this folder from legal counsel going back and forth with his attorneys, our attorneys, Manny Mello, the board members. This problem.
I don't discount that. I just thought it was odd that the motion didn't say it.
Yeah, I can't answer for what the judge was thinking, but I do know that this has been remanded back at one point in time, and I think the reason being was that to deem this lot not buildable it amounts to essentially a taking. You know, we're telling somebody that we allowed you to put in a well, you had a permit, a regulation changed, and now we can't give you a permit anymore. And that is, to me, the definition of manifestly unjust. And the regulation says that you have to prove that this would be manifestly unjust to not be able to not get the variance. So we have the ability to use the property, which was already permitted once with a well on site permitted, or in part of a subdivision, or we have nothing. And again, it's different if you were to tell me this was just a piece of land that nothing was done to it, but you got to remember there was a well installed and permits issued on this. And then it's been battled over for years and years and years, and finally ended up in court and remanded back to the board because it's saying that the decision needed to be based on more solid ground. And when you look at it, to me, Chris, we're proving that the level of protection with the advanced treatment is there. I think everybody on the board would agree that an advanced treatment system does a much, much, much better job than non-advanced treatment systems. In fact, the DEP allows you to cut your leaching field by 50% when using an advanced treatment system. That's how well they work. We use these advanced treatment systems on bottomless sand filters as well. Those are tiny footprints, very, very tiny. And it's because of the level of treatment that these systems provide that allow us to do such. It reduces biomat sizing and everything else. So that being said, we go back to the fact that to deny this, we believe is manifestly unjust. And we're showing item B, which is that we're meeting a level of environmental protection that is at least equivalent. We're 60 plus feet away with the leaching field. And we're doing advanced treatment. I think that this system is definitely a good system that meets those parameters.
I got another question for you, Jamie. We've had some concern, like 3 weeks ago, we had the heavy rains on Wednesday night, or maybe 4 weeks ago now, where it flooded out there.
Yes.
Can you just put up the plan and just show where that water was going and
Sure. Yep.
where it's going to continue there was concern that building this lot is going to stop that and make that water come higher. I want
Yeah,
to
no,
clearly show where
Yeah.
the water is going and where it is supposed to continue to go in case a rainstorm event like that happens again.
Sure. So um, there's a catch basin that is further down Old Potterhouse this way, and there's a catch basin on the uphill side over in here. It appears that the water comes down around the curb down here, and there's a catch basin a little bit further down on the flat. It's over 100 feet from our leaching field. What happens is when it gets inundated, the water backs up on the pavement and tops the curb. What we've done on our lot is because water does seem to overflow in this vicinity. So what we've done is we've maintained a swale on the side of ours to not back up any water. In fact, we would promote any type of a backup of water to flow down towards the wetlands to alleviate any ponding in the roadway. We wouldn't be making that worse. We'd be trying to make it better. And Derek, I believe that that you might have witnessed the water level with the last rainstorm.
I did. It was right before that telephone pole at your lot corner. It actually overflows about 5 feet prior to that on the other lot and runs down through the woods, and there's a deep dished gully where you can see it's going.
Yeah, and that's backed up by we did a LiDAR overlay. LiDAR is NOAA's topographic data. I wanted to see what would happen, and that's where the LiDAR was pointing to as well. It showed that it would be this, in this vicinity in here, that we would get some potential overflow if it was to back up. That based on knowing that the curb is 3 to 4 inches tall.
Okay. And then you're asking for a 3-bedroom on this? Is that
Yes, we are.
correct?
Yep, that's the minimum size septic under Title V for new construction.
Okay. And our previous plan in 86 was approved for a 4-bedroom, so you have decreased that.
Yes, we have. Yes, as you can see here, this is the approved plan in 86, and it's for a 4-bedroom house.
Okay. So in your opinion now, yep, go ahead, Bob Palucci.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, I know Copeland and Page had given us, after we reached out to them, gave us some type of guidance on this, but that was before we found out it went to court and Copeland and Page had represented us. And I wanted to know if they have since, what they say their guidance is or what our options should be now after that lawsuit, what they're recommending.
Okay, Edward, I don't believe we've sent anything back to them since their reply. Am I correct on that, Edward?
Yeah, no, they're aware of what Bob said about the lawsuit, but as we were saying earlier, like Chris brought it up, he says the justification for that was we don't issue variances for new construction, which, honestly, I agree with that decision because you're not being clear. You're just making a blanket statement. Whereas if you have justification for not doing a variance, then yes, of course you have justification. You don't need to, you don't, like I said, the decision, in my opinion, it didn't really say that, okay, that was justified. It's just the reason given of the blanket statement of, okay, no variance for new construction. That in itself was the problem, not that the board denied it. And so it can go back to the board, but it's not it's not so clear cut as the board did something wrong in denying it. I don't believe the board did anything wrong in denying it other than the reasoning for it. They didn't give a specific reason. They just gave a blanket statement, which, and I understand that wasn't the correct statement.
Okay, none of us were on the board when that happened years ago, but do we know what happened after that? After the court sent it back, did they re-vote? Did they move any further action, or it just got sent back to us and the whole thing stopped?
Jamie, can you answer? I believe it stopped. I don't believe we've had anything further since this, if I'm correct.
I believe that, Jamie, I believe that it stopped. I believe it went back and they didn't rule any further on it. The board didn't rule any further. They just let it go. But the court, this was a summary of their finding, but if you read the submission by Koppelman and Page and by Masterman, Colbert, and Tully, you'll see it was very detailed as to what was presented by the board. And the judge rejected that, saying that it was arbitrary. And he makes references to the 100 feet from the wetlands. I mean, obviously, he wasn't going to go into 300 pages worth of detail, but it was very detailed in the presentation and the rebuttal to Koppelman and Page. And you can see that. And he denied that based on their very detailed presentation.
And I agree with his decision of when you say, okay, no, not 100 feet within a wetland, but like I said, as Chris mentioned earlier, this isn't a typical wetland. It's a wetland that flows into a reservoir that's used for drinking water for hundreds of thousands of people. So it's not the blanket statement of 100 feet to a wetland doesn't even begin to signify how sensitive this area is. So, and I think that would be the justification if the board wanted to deny it, because the sensitivity of the area, because this, like, and I'm sure Jamie will agree, this is not your typical wetland.
Can I follow up though? If that was the applicant talking, I believe. So I've been on the board 11 years now. This is the first time this has come to me. I mean, after it went to court, it doesn't sound like anybody won or lost. They just gave a decision that it had to come back to us. I mean, why didn't the applicant come back to the Board of Health at that time and say, and ask for the approval of the new denial at that time? Why has it been sitting out there all this time?
Jamie, I'll answer that.
Okay.
I didn't go back to the board because I believe that the board was biased in their decision, and I believe that they would never rendered a just opinion. And that was also referenced by the judge. He said their decision was arbitrary. And the presentation said, and the judge agreed, that it did not appear that the board was going to approve this lot under any circumstances. And it was upon that basis that the judge decided that it was arbitrary. We had given the board several different alternatives that they had suggested themselves with regard to the size of the house and things like that. And although they suggested that we make those adjustments to our plan at much, with much time and expense, they still rejected it. So my attorney said, it's clear that they're not going to approve this under any circumstance, and the judge agreed. That's why I didn't go back, because I was going to be in front of the same three people who, for whatever reason, were arbitrary, as the judge stated.
Oh, the city of Taunton was against it too.
I'm sorry, Bob?
No, it's Chris.
Sorry.
The city of Taunton, who owns the water supply, was against it also. So, I mean, I understand. You may feel in your opinion there was some bias, but when the water supply is against it too, and we get a lot of stuff that it's near the water supply. Jamie can talk about that. And Taunton doesn't speak up a lot. When they do, we usually listen. And that was during that same time period.
Yeah, but Chris, in our defense, this time they haven't commented, and they've received 3 notifications just for this hearing. The other thing I wanted to touch on real quick was, Ed, I do agree with the sensitivity of the wetland, but that's the whole purpose for the variance. If this was a standard wetland, the setback is 50 feet, and we're greater than that. The only reason that we're asking for the variance is because it is to a wetland that abuts a surface water supply or tributary. And that is also why we're providing the treatment. See, with a denial on this, there would have to be some kind of a justification that says why you don't believe that we're meeting the environmental level of protection. And I don't think that that's something that can be done. as far as the treatment is there. If you look at the numbers on the treatment, and if it'd make you feel more comfortable, I'm happy to bring a representative for the treatment company, to the next meeting. But the treatment level is there. The product that should be, that we're worried about getting towards the resource area, the level should be better because of how well these treatment systems break down the waste. The previous filings that they were proposing stone and pipe systems with a septic tank. This is a far cry from a stone and pipe septic tank. This is light years above it with monitoring and maintenance.
But the other thing too is when you grant a variance, usually you're granting something because you're getting an overall improvement. So when you have an existing cesspool, yes, you're granting a variance, but the overall system is going to be improved. And I'm not knocking the fast system; they work okay, but this isn't going to be an improvement. It's you have nothing there, and now you are going to have something that's going to be polluting it. So I think that kind of takes away the justification for a variance, because it's like, well, what are you getting when you grant the variance? Usually you get an overall improvement, and in this case, you're not getting improvement; it's worsening.
Yeah, but if we go back to the variance section on Title V, the governing document here, it doesn't say, are we making something better for somebody? We're saying that to deny this variance would be manifestly unjust, and that we are meeting the levels of environmental protection, at least equivalent to that under Title V. And with regards to variances for new construction, enforcement of the provision would be to deprive the applicant of substantially all beneficial use. And that's what we're saying. We're not saying that we're making anything better as far as upgrading a cesspool. What we're saying is that for the board to deny this, you're taking away the person's right to use the property, which is manifestly unjust. And it's the only right he has for the property, which was at one point in time approved. There's been a well put on the property. It's in a definitive subdivision. There are septics on all the sides of it. There are septics on the other side on Bedford Street. But to deny this person his variance here would render his lot useless. And therefore that would be manifestly unjust.
Well, I would disagree with useless, because it still has value. I mean, the client, he didn't pay for it, but his parents paid $2,500 for this. So he probably could sell it for more than that. So
but that's irrelevant on the price. The price isn't what it says here. It talks about use. You're depriving them of the use of the property.
Yeah, but use is if you buy something and sell it for more, that's a beneficial use, in my opinion.
That's a benefit. That's not a use necessarily. I mean, you're depriving the applicant of all beneficial use.
We do have a reply from Greg with all this too. I don't know if Ed has it handy. I have it here from Greg Corbo from KP. And he says, my screen just, in my opinion, the current septic application is subject to the current requirements of Title V and the town's local regulations. Mm-hmm. The prior expired permit does not provide the applicant with any protection from those requirements. It is therefore my further opinion that the request for variance is subject to the applicant demonstrating that strict application of Title V and the town's regulations will result in manifest injustice, and that the system being proposed can achieve an equal degree of environmental protection as a fully compliant system can. The burden of proof is on the applicant, and the board has considerable discretion. That being said, if litigation is being threatened, I recommend document reasons in writing and reference specific facts on the record.
Yeah, we're not questioning the board's authority here.
So there's local stuff here you're asking for too, you know what I mean? The 20,000 square feet.
Yes.
On top of the wetland thing. So that's our opinion from town council.
It is. And the 20,000 square foot thing, Chris, used to be 20,000 square feet total. Along the years, it's changed to 20,000 square feet of upland. When this lot was created, obviously, it was 20,000 square feet of land. I have a copy of the regulation at the time. for that. But I agree, we're asking for the waiver from it. But when you think about the 20,000 square feet of upland or land, it is, and this was based on my conversation with Ed, the purpose of it is to make sure that you don't diminish the abutters' abilities for well and septic placement. So if you had undersized lots, if you have 20,000 square feet of land, you're not negating the neighbor's ability to place a well and septic. What we're saying is all of our neighbors have wells and septics already in, and we're not putting any restrictions as far as we're not getting too close to any of them. We're meeting all the setbacks to those. And we have 55,000 square feet or so of land. It's just we're 3,000 and change short on the upland area requirement of that regulation. But remember that the well was also placed in a couple of decades ago and has been in place that time. So, that's kind of where we are with that. But we do understand the board does have final say, and that's why we're here tonight, pleading our case.
Let me add one more thing, Jamie. I want to go back to one of the points that was raised about the tributary. You have to read the detailed complaint, because in the complaint, it was specifically stated that the only supporting statement made by the Lakeville board was that, quote, they would not grant a variance less than 100 feet from a wetland bordering a tributary to a water supply at any time under new construction. That's in the complaint. And the judge refers to that. He used a little shorthand without putting that whole sentence in, but he says permitted within 100 feet of wetlands. But the actual reference in the complaint is within 100 feet from wetlands bordering a tributary to a water supply at any time under new construction. So the court saw that. They were aware of the actual complaint, the actual reason that the board gave, and it refers to the bordering tributary. And they denied that as a reason, saying it was arbitrary. I mean, it's very clear. You have to read the detailed complaint, and you'll see it there. And it's quoted. That's what the board actually said. And that's what the court refuted.
I guess from our standpoint, Derek, Bob, and Chris, we're okay if we have to continue the meeting, if there's something additional, that you need to be able to make a decision. The pressure is not to force you to make a decision tonight or right now, but we do believe the right decision is to approve this. We truly do, or I wouldn't be in front of you asking for it. And so I guess the question is, where would you find our plan lacking, for the system to meet the environmental level of protection? I mean, town council has said that you guys do have the right to approve this. I've been to DEP with Kevin, and they also said that you have the right to approve this. I believe we've established that a denial would render this a manifestly unjust, because he would not be able to use he wouldn't have the substantially all beneficial use of his property. And we're trying to meet, we feel we're meeting the environmental level of protection that's required. And we're not saying that it's a regular wetland. We're saying it's a wetland bordering a surface water supply or a tributary there too. So that's the reason that we're here for the variance. But remember, we're providing advanced treatment and maximizing all of our separations here in good faith. So I guess my question would be, if there is something that, that you're saying, well, here's why I can't vote yes for this yet. I would say, well, tell me what it is so I can see if we can improve it. Because we obviously want the right thing, but we'd like to find out what you're thinking.
I'll go first on that one if possible. Now, just one more thing, if you could clarify. I know you just brought it up, and I forgot about that one. You did go to DEP
Yes.
with our former health agent, Kevin Bernardo,
Yes.
and discussed property specifically, because you'd brought this to our attention over a year ago. I don't remember the date you were in a preliminary hearing just to talk about this property. And we had sent you to the to DEP for clarification?
Yeah, my recollection of the meeting, and please don't hold this as biblical, but my recollection of the meeting when we came in informally was that if we went to DEP and the variances were grantable and we didn't receive negative feedback from the water supplies, then there would be no problem with this application. We talked about the advanced treatment at the time and the existing nonconformity. And so we've done those items, and like I said, we've sent 3 notices to Taunton and New Bedford Water, and we've received nothing with this application. I think a big problem with the previous plans were there was no advanced treatment. I mean, technology's come a long ways in 20 years, and since this was last in front of you. These systems, they're leaps and bounds better than what was previously available. And so I really urge the board to give this a strong consideration.
Okay, thank you for that. Now, I'll have my opinion out there, and then I'll go to the other board members. I've been on the board 6.5 years now, and we've dealt with a couple of interesting properties. And I've had meetings with town council and other town councils on these 2 items as far as variance and manifest and jest. And I've had meetings with DEP specifically on that also. In my opinion, to deny this, I think you're clearly making it manifest and jest to the owner. You're making this lot worthless. When his parents bought this in 1980 for $2,500, that was the going rate of land in 1980. So if you put that in today's perspective, a lot's worth $150,000. So technically, this lot should be worth $150,000, even though he only paid $2,500 for it. You can't say, oh, it's worth more than $2,500. In my opinion, that doesn't even make sense to me. And if you made this lot unbuildable right now and we deny it again, nobody's going to pay $150,000 for this lot. It might be worth $2,500, but you're not comparing it then to now. And then on the other part of the variance, they met, in my opinion, putting the treatment system in now meets that requirement that you're meeting at least as good as protection to the wetlands with this system. Again, back then, it wasn't a treatment system. So they had their reasons for denying it previous boards. And again, it says you're supposed to take each request of a variance individually on case-by-case basis, not a blanket. And when this one was pre-approved in 1986 by the board for a 4-bedroom, and a well permit was issued in 1986, installed, and I got a passed water test on this property from 1986. They just needed to show up with $25 and pick up the permit and put the system in, and there'd be a house there. So in my opinion, I clearly think they meet the requirement, and it would be manifest and just to deny it. And I'm solely kind of basing my opinion. Jamie had mentioned earlier that because this was pre-approved, I just want to make it clear. If this was just a vacant lot and somebody's coming in and didn't have an approved septic system in 1986, and it didn't have the well permit already approved for this property and installed, I would not have the same outcome, in my opinion. But because of those reasons, and then also if you look back in the folder, back in 2000 or 2001, when this property was denied, the lot prior to this one, that abuts this, was approved in 2001. And on that lot, they didn't even reference the wetlands and ask for a variance they should have asked for. It's actually closer. The septic is right next to this one, if you look at the prior plan. it's actually closer to the wetlands than this system in without a treatment system, and it was approved by the board in 2001, but yet this one was denied. So again, I don't know what was the reasoning of what went on, but I just want to vote solely on what is presented to us now and not on what the previous boards for their reasoning had for denying it. Then I'll let Bob talk, and then Chris, and then Jamie, if you want any other comments, and then I need to open it up to anybody that's on Facebook for comments.
Okay.
Bob Lucci?
Okay. I have a lot of different opinions on this, to be honest. It just kind of seems strange that the judge basically, and I don't understand that that's exactly how it happened. So without knowing, but that the judge seemed to at least somehow rule in the applicant's favor against the board. Now I know Copeland and Page says that we don't have to do it now. The 20,000 square feet I'm not all that concerned with, because a lot of that I believe has to do with how much land to put a field and to keep a well so far apart. And I remember being at a meeting once saying that at some point the fields get smaller, and how much land you need to put a septic system in will get smaller. And so the 20,000 square feet I'm not that concerned with. Being the tributary, that does concern me. And I'd like to get, and I mean, I'll just throw this out there, we'll let everybody else talk, but I mean, I would just like to, at the minimum, before to possibly make it easier for me to go in favor of this, I would like to, though, just get I don't really understand and don't know what manifest injust is. I don't know the technicalities. I don't know how it all works. I would just like to get an opinion from Copeland and Page saying that either that is an issue here or it's not an issue here, and that's not something we should be using to make our decision on, because it's a term in a law, it sounds like, and that I really don't have the knowledge to intelligently vote tonight to say that it would be that without having that, without getting some guidance from them on that point.
Mike, can you explain that?
Is he asking me?
Yeah, I think, Murray, he may be able to, but I think we got to let the rest of the board members finish.
Oh, okay.
Thank you, Bob. Chris, would you like to state your opinion and where we stand on this one?
Yeah, I look at Greg's opinion where he says that all that the prior approvals are pretty much null and void, that it's the current requirements of Title V and the local regulations is what they have to go to right now. And they're not meeting the 20,000. I mean, I know we're pulling hairs there, but with new construction and the amount of stuff that could happen, depending on how we vote on this, other people are going to come knocking on the door, and we're going to be facing things like this left and right. And the local regulations with new construction, I mean, we're not approving a lot of stuff like this. You know what I mean? For new construction. And I understand there's a previous permit, but it's null and void at this point. If it was more current, and I can't speak to the previous boards, and I'm like Bob, I also I worry about the tributary stuff more, because and that opening us up to more of that. There's been some lots that have been talked about with privies and other weird stuff on them, and old camp lots, and I worry about Pandora's box being opened. You know what I mean? And, there's also Ed brought up in one of his comments that, the square footage of upland has changed too. It's increased around 3,000 feet too. And there's no confirmation as to where that came from.
Can I jump back in?
Yes, Bob.
Yeah, that was something else too. And again, maybe it was right or wrong, but that's another thing I'd like specifically answered. Now, like I said, it's been 11 years for me. I never voted. I don't believe that I ever voted for a variance on a new lot. I was actually told when I got on the board that we could not issue variances on new lots. So, it was kind of presented to me as it was a hard and fast, we just don't do it and we can't do it. Now, it sounds like from that court decision, they're saying we can do it or else they wouldn't have said it was arbitrary. So, like I'm saying, it sounds like, I hate being the person in this position because it kind of feels like you have a yes and a no right now. And I'd really like to, let everybody else talk, but I'd need to get a couple of things clarified from town council, not just, I know Mike, I've used him, I trust him, but I'd still like to hear from the town council, not the applicant's council.
Understood.
Okay, Jamie, would you like to add some more comments on anything, or the owner or the attorney?
So I guess what I would like to add is that we're completely open to a continuance. Again, we're not looking to force anything here. We wanna work with the board. Obviously, we're hoping for an approval. I think at the next meeting, if the board would like, I know that the treatment or the level of treatment, is that an area of concern? Because I have no problem bringing an expert from that technology company to join us and talk about data on levels of protection and things like that. We want to be able to make the board as comfortable as we can. Chris, my understanding with precedents and things like that, I understand the slippery slope, but it's my understanding that, like Derek said, each case is looked at individually and differently on its own merits. Where this had a permit, which I know the permit's a null and void, I completely understand that. But understanding that a well was done and that there has been a back and forth battle trying to get to what I believe is this point now, where we have an advanced treatment system that gives you the ability to treat the effluent to a level that, exceeds what Title V would mandate. I believe it's kind of just, it's time. It's the point in which it's an approvable thing. But again, I'm not a voting member. The three of you are. So I just want to find out if there's anything that you think is lacking in our presentation or plan that we could bring to help our case. We'll try to.
I'm fine with the advanced treatment. I know what they are. I don't need I don't have an issue with that system at all. I just need the opportunity to get a couple of questions answered.
Understood.
And the precedent thing, I know I've been told that before, that each one stands alone, lawyers find a way. You know what I mean? And
I understand. I do. I understand.
And once we open it up, you're the guy. You're the guy that opened the door. You opened the heck.
No, I understand.
Okay.
Can I say something about, a comment Derek made,
Yeah.
which I think
Yep.
was very perceptive with regard to the price of the property. I am the original owner of two old Potterhouse. I guess current owner is on, but so I know how much I paid for it, and it was a pittance. My recollection was that it was less than 10,000, and I also know on the other side of the lot we're talking about, that lot was owned by Walter Crosby. I think he paid $1,000 for that lot, and those lots are now developed. And that was the one you were referring to that was developed in 2000. So those lots were very inexpensive back when the Bartletts offered them to us, which was back in the 70s, 1970 something, 78 or something. So the price of those lots are almost irrelevant because he was trying to close the development there, which had over 80 homes, the subdivision. And so he was offering the lots very inexpensively. So that's why you're looking at a price back then that was based on what the current market value was at that time. And the fact that it's appreciated, there are probably a ton of homes in Lakeville that were purchased back then that have appreciated substantially since the 1970s. So I don't think that, so I think Derek's comments are very perceptive when he says that. And to me, the bottom line here is our advanced system providing an environmental protection at least equal to that required under Title V? And I believe that it does. And I believe that's when you scrape it all away, that's the bottom line. I want to protect the wetlands, and I think everyone on the committee does. And I respect the fact that the committee wants to protect the wetlands. And I think our system does protect. In fact, it probably protects it a lot more than any of the other systems along Old Potterhouse, because I was there when most of those homes were developed, when they were first built. And they're a lot closer to the wetlands, and their systems aren't anywhere near as sophisticated as the advanced system that Jamie's proposing. And so this system that we're presenting to the board presents a lot more protection of the wetlands than any of the other systems there. And to me, that's the bottom line.
Chris, I was curious too, and I'm just thinking, about the precedent, but I'm not sure how many lots we're going to find that, for lots that have grandfathered status, that will need a setback reduction to a wetland bordering a surface water supply, that can meet all the nitrogen loading requirements and everything else. I'm not sure that I've come across another one in town yet. I know this is the first variance for new construction I've ever brought in front of Lakeville, but that I can remember. But I don't know of any other similar situation like this. I don't think there's going to be a big floodgate of it. The lot has to meet the grandfathering status, which we believe it does for zoning. So that was me thinking out loud for a second. I was going through the process of it. So we've taken enough of your time, guys. I really appreciate your time tonight. So I guess we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right. Yes, Jamie, I just thank you for the presentation, and also just on your comment, just with my dealings with town council, opening up the floodgates. I know Chris is very, concerned on having other properties come in front of us that we have to approve because we approved this one. It is not the case from my knowledge with town council and DEP and other town councils. It is solely on a case-by-case basis. It doesn't mean another one's going to come in and then we have to approve it, Chris. So on that, it looks like we're split. And Bob, any other thing that you would like Jamie to do in your opinion, or you just want to see about the manifest and just and send it to town council for an opinion? Is that where we're at?
Person to speak. Sorry, Derek. There's a Charles Ash that says 4 Old Powder House that's in the room. Is that a butter or someone?
Yes, it's a butter.
I didn't know if they wanted to speak.
Okay, good point, Chris. Yes, I have to open it up to them also. Let me just go back to Bob Palucci. Anything you'd like to comment to Jamie before I ask any abutters' opinion?
No, I don't really have a problem with the septic system. Like I said, I would like, that we would ask Ed. I'd like to get a clarification on manifest unjust and see what Copeland and Page feels about that. If us denying it will cause that. I am also very concerned about setting precedent. I mean, I think part of the reason that we haven't had many people come in for a new lot variance is because, honestly, we've never did it. I mean, like I said, I was told my first hearing that we don't give variances on new lots. I honestly believed it was something we didn't have the authority to do. So I'd like to have that cleared up, because once we do it, you know, then we might be opening up all that. And also the other question I want to bring up to them too is, I know, you know, we're all afraid that other people are going to come in. I was involved once in a case, and it's my understanding that if we were to allow something, we are kind of locked into it as long as the three of us are still board members, that the change of one board member would then allow them to rule on it differently. So I honestly want to hear from town council on that also. I want to be 100% sure that, you know, if we give, you know, but the flip side is, and why I want to get the information for the applicant, is because that court ruling says just the fact that we don't give variances on new construction didn't seem to hold any water for the argument. So, I mean, so I'd really like to get those 3 points cleared up, and an actual, you know, something in writing with them explaining each one of those points to all of us, but at least to me, so I can be sure if I think that it's going to cause a bunch of lots to start coming in that don't, that we wouldn't have allowed before variances, I'm probably against it. But it doesn't sound like him reading that rule and that was what they were saying. So, I mean, it sounds like there's, like I said earlier, I mean, I'm just guessing here, but it sounds like there's a yes and a no. And, you know, I'm really on the fence. I wouldn't make this an exercise. I really want to get those 3 questions answered before I was to make a decision.
Okay, Bob, thank you. Yeah, I agree with you. If you'd like to get town council's opinion, I'm fine with that. I would like to just see if anybody on Facebook is out there and like to type in a comment, just so we can discuss it before we continue this. I believe there's one person on, or have they dropped?
There's one person on the Zoom call with us, and no comments on Facebook. So it's just Charles Ash of Old Potterhouse.
Okay, and he was a notified abutter?
Yes, he's on Zoom now.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 2 Old Potterhouse, and we have just moved into the area and got the notice. I was more curious what was happening next door than anything. But I've seen what I need to, and the board's got to do what the board's got to do. So thank you for the notice, which I understand is required by law, and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Okay.
And before we close out, I just want to thank the board for the time and consideration so far. I know you spent a fair amount of time on this, and if you looked at that file, you probably had to pick it up, and hopefully you didn't get a hernia, because there's a lot of paperwork there. I have a lot myself. So I know you put a lot of time and effort into it, and I respect you for doing that, and I really appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you. Bob, you'd like to make a motion to continue?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to continue this for 2 weeks and ask Ed to see if he can get some guidance from Copeland on Page on those 3 issues I brought up.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Bob Plucci?
Aye.
Chris Spratt?
Aye.
Derek Maxim? Aye. Thank you. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jamie.
your time, everyone.
Thank
you,
you.
Jamie.
We'll see you in 2 weeks on that one.
Yes, you will.
Okay. All right. Now hold on 1 second and let me dig through my pile of papers and find what I need.
141 Main.
Okay, I'll go with Bob. 141 Main, because I've already lost my agenda.
I got it here
And
too.
I need to meet with Zenith Consulting Engineers for variances.
That's correct. It's Jamie Bissonette again from Zenith Consulting Engineers. I think this is the last one for me tonight, so I'm going to try to get out of you here relatively quickly. If I may, I'd like to pull up the plan to show you. You okay with that, Mr. Chair?
Yes, yes, please, go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you. Let's see. Give me one sec. Let me see. There we go. There we go. Thanks, Chris. All right. So we have, this is an existing 2-bedroom home on Main Street. It has an existing system in the back of the building that is not functioning, and we're looking to upgrade it with an infiltrator system with a Roth 2-compartment tank and a Roth style pump chamber. Those are the HDPE plastic style tanks that are approved by DEP. In this application, we're looking for relief from actually the 200 foot to a tributary to a surface water supply in this case. And so when we look at the plan, we have a well in the front, and you can see the existing well, 100 foot well radiuses. The only spot that you could possibly consider putting this and being out of the 200 foot to the tributary would be in the front paved driveway, which would block access to the house and the garage and everything. It would also be, it would probably be very close to 50 feet from our existing well. So as an alternative, the only other place we could really start to look is in the back where the existing plumbing goes now. And so what we did was we placed it in front of this retaining wall that's in place, holding back a relatively steep slope into this area here. We do need to pump it to maintain groundwater separation and accommodate the existing building plumbing. The only 2 waivers that I'm aware of are for the field and for the tanks to the tributary for being less than 200 feet. But we need over 100 feet to all abutting wells and our well. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
On this one, Jamie, I actually reviewed it and I pretty much don't have any questions. The only thing I can see, I drove by today and just seeing access to the backyard is going to be very difficult.
It is, yeah. I think that
because
was
of the location and the reasoning for probably the plastic tanks, because I don't think you can get a tank truck out there without tearing down the shed.
Yeah, that definitely went into the decision making. As you know, these tanks can be put in a pickup truck or a flatbed, and you can bring them back there. I've seen them transported with a backhoe before. In fact, I have these tanks at my house, and that's how we did them. So it was moved them with a backhoe. It's a pretty neat thing.
I didn't realize that was a tributary.
Yeah, I had to look it up, Chris, before the meeting because Niles designed this. But there's a little water body, and then it drains. It drains to and so honestly, the edge of this water is to call it a tributary is the most conservative approach because a tributary is the flowing body of water, but nonetheless, even if we moved it 30 feet over, we'd still be within it. So this is definitely the right application, and the right thing to do is to ask for this upgrade.
Okay, and where is the existing system, Jamie? And is that going to have to be removed?
It will, yeah. You can see right over in here is what we have located for the existing system. We always put that the notes on the plan about the system. You can also see a note over in here, the system's to be decommissioned and removed in accordance with Title V. So we've got right here and right here.
Okay. That was my only other question. Bob Palucci, question, comments on this one?
I'm fine with it. There's nothing else you can do.
Chris Spratt, questions, comment?
Yeah, Jamie already alluded to it a little bit, that you have these tanks. Like, I've seen a different brand. I haven't seen this brand before, but these are pretty good.
Did you see Frelo?
I don't think so.
Infiltrator makes them as well.
Okay. Yeah,
So
it's been a while. Usually it's mostly hair salon holding tank type stuff. That
yeah,
I've seen.
yeah. These are Roth, and Roth used to be under the name Frelo, I believe. And I bought them when they were Frelo tanks, and I've had good luck with them.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I was just curious how you. But other than that, I don't have any questions. Yeah, it's fairly straightforward what's going on out there.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Edward, do you have any comment on this? I read your comments you'd sent to the board. It seems like we addressed all of them. Any comments?
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with everyone else. It's pretty much the only place you can put it. It is a little closer than the existing one, but it's quite a bit higher up, so that I think you'll get better protection in the long run. And so, yeah, I think it's a big improvement to the existing one, which is in groundwater. So, you know, I think it's good.
All right, thank you. Is there anyone out on Facebook? Any comments that have been typed in on this one?
No comments, I believe.
Okay. So yeah, I'm good with this one. Bob, would you like to make a motion, or Chris, on this one?
I don't mind. I'll make a motion that we approve the 2 requested variances on 141 Main Street.
Second.
Any discussion? I hear none. Bob Palucci,
Aye.
Chris Spratt,
Aye.
Derek Maxim, aye. Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks. Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thanks, Jamie.
Okay, next on the agenda, 29 Pilgrim Road. Meet with McKinnon and Keys to discuss request local upgrades. I haven't spoke with them yet. Are they online?
Yes.
Okay.
You're both, Sandy and Martin, you're both muted. Can you unmute yourselves? There's a little, yeah, I think Martin's unmuted now.
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that
you're
my,
good. Yep.
I still can't get used to this.
Okay.
Face-to-face meetings, but it is what it is these days anyway.
Okay, so you're both with us. If I could clarify who's who and who you're with, just so I can write it down. And
For the record, I'm Sandy Keys of McKinnon and Keys Engineering in Rochester, Mass. And we're representing Mr. Len Solano, who has this existing building on Pilgrim Road that we wish to upgrade the system and produce a new well. It's a very tiny lot, 7,150 square feet. And by Title V law, the lot has been delineated by a professional land surveyor, J.L. Francis from Kingston. So with that, do you want me just go along and explain what we have here with you, or maybe you'd like to jump in?
no, please go ahead and explain everything, and then we'll take comments, questions. Thank you.
Very good. And again, you know, we were on a 7,150 square foot lot, smaller, and what we proposed are several variances from Title V in order to construct this system, and one variance from your bylaw that requires a 2-compartment tank. We're producing a well out front that meets setbacks from just about everybody that is in the abutter, other than the abutter to the westerly side, where we have, oh, actually we do. All right, I'm sorry, I'm reading this upside down. We have 100 feet.
Would you like me to share the screen, Sandy?
Yeah, that'd be cool. Can you do that?
Yes.
Okay. I'm assuming you guys have a copy of my plan in front of you?
I do, yes.
I do.
I do.
Okay. Okay, so I'll try to make this as succinct as I can. And we're sinking a new well, obviously. The existing well is about 25 feet from a cesspool that sits in the water table. We had water at a little over 4 feet down. We were unable to do a conventional perk test here, so we sent a sample off to the lab over at our friends at Outback. And Outback had sent us back the soil results and the percentages of clay, silt, and sand within this. So that's how we derived, I think, Ed, I sent you the specs that Outback sent us. And this is an uncompacted soil, which is now Title V being addressed rather than just the conventional perk and what we used to do a few years ago under Title V, soil sieve analysis. So that being said, what we're doing is we've got a 15.5 septic tank that comes out of a proposed addition that he'd like to add on to the house. And the tank is 1 unit. The pump chamber is built into this one tank. It's 2,000 gallons in all. 1,500 is septic tank, and the other 500 is pump chamber. And where we've got flotation issues here, we went with this heavy singular unit rather than putting another 1,000-gallon septic tank in here. And we think that even though you guys would like to see a 2-compartment septic tank, we think we've achieved and met the intent of what your bylaw has written. So with that, we're pumping up 25 feet with the 2-inch pressurized Schedule 80 line into a section where it crosses over into and released into a 4-inch section of PVC. And we like to do this with our septic pump up systems because that releases the absolute pressure coming in from that pressurized system before it hits the D box. And then we go at a 1% pitch into the D box. And we've been using this for years. It's a great innovation by Chris Michaud from Dartmouth. And we have very good success with that, and it releases the flow quite evenly into the D box. So with that, we prefer not to put a T in there, but we always defer to you guys. You want to see a T, that's fine, but we feel it's unnecessary. And we've had a problem quite a few years ago with a T in a tank, a T in the D box, I'm sorry, and that water freezing there when these people left to go to Florida for 2 months. So that was problematic in itself. But the septic tank and pump chamber is more than adequate for this tiny 2-bedroom home. And we've, as I say, using 18 infiltrators with leaching of 224 gallons. It's more than adequate for the 2-bedroom home. So with that, I'll go over the variances, if I may. We have Title V variance setbacks 15 to 11. And also, you should see Section 405, which allows you to take variances into these existing conditions. We have the first variance, which is highlighted on the plan in yellow, and that's the SAS to the crawl space of 19 feet. We pushed it as far back into the neighbor's property line or adjacent to the property line as we could, still allowing a foot so we can reduce our rough coat barrier that will prevent any sort of breakout. The second variance is the proposed well, which is 90 feet. It's still a vast improvement over what we have now. This is our new proposed well. And it's also the westerly neighbor's existing cesspool as well too. So we're improving that somewhat. The third variance is to the existing well at number 27 Pilgrim. And once again, that's 84 feet. And it's about the same distance to the existing cesspool, but certainly it provides a whole lot more protection than a cesspool sitting in the water table, and that's what we have here. And the fourth variance is to the northerly property line 6 feet, which we're off with our overdig. And then we have a sieve analysis in lieu of the perk test, which we're requesting a variance from. We have all that determination. As again, we did contact Outback to do our sieves, and the results you have in your folder. And then, of course, the 12-inch separation from the septic tank inlet to an outlet. It's 12 inches, less than 12 inches due to the high water table. So that is rubber gasketed and sealed to prevent any water intrusion here. So basically what we have is a very small lot with high water, difficult access, but we consider what we proposed here is not 100% Title V compliant, but we do believe we've met maximum feasible compliance under the law. And with that, if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them.
Okay, thank you for that. I just have a couple. The abutters were notified. I believe we had to
Yes.
notify 2 abutters.
We notified.
So they have been notified.
Yeah, the one to the rear we had to notify because we were 6 feet off the property line there, less than the 10. And then the abutter to the east and the west, one because of the well distance, and the other one because we're only 6 feet off their property line too. And they had just upgraded their system on lot number 113. So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank
And
you.
we've got that
Now-
5-foot strip out, you know, we've actually, the system itself sits 6 feet off, but as I said, we had a little bit of flexibility to place that within that strip out area.
Okay. Do you have any concern with raising that elevation a 1.5 feet to the new finish grade of 6142 over the system, where it's the perk test elevation is 59.5?
Right. Well, we really have no concern because it goes along with the slope of the lot. It's higher in the back and then it comes downward. And we have that rough go barrier that we are employing all the way to elevation 60.67. So the 6142 elevation that is the top of the system, and you can see that at the top of the plan on the right-hand corner. Those are our finish grades that we put. So the installer up top, a little bit more. Okay. Yeah, we go. And we like to put these on the plan as finish grades to guide the installer as to what we have in mind here. So everything is on one sheet of paper and he knows what to do with that. So that's actually 9 inches of cover over that existing SAS, or the proposed SAS. The top of the SAS is 60.67.
Okay, so you're going to try to.
I'm sorry?
So you're going to make the grade higher at the back property line corners and make it come forward so the water is shedding onto their
Yeah.
lot, not onto the neighbor's lot? Is
That-
that
yeah,
your plan at 2% slope?
Correct. Well, the grade itself rises quite a bit towards the rear of the property, so that's not a consideration there. You know, and as I say, we have the rough coat barrier around all edges except the westerly edge. It's just
Okay.
that 5-foot strip out. We use that rough coat 240 stuff, and they use it to line landfills, and it's supposed to have a shelf life of 100 years, but I suppose you'd have to be around to make that determination.
Okay, thank you. One other question on the tank. It does say H20,
Yes.
but I don't see monolithic on it. We normally require monolithic when the water table elevation is above the seam of the tank on a 2-piece
Yeah.
tank, which I
Yeah.
believe this one is.
It is indeed.
Is it a monolithic on here somewhere or no?
They just don't make a monolithic tank in this size and this weight. But we get this from Wiggins Precast, and they guarantee their tanks for life. They seal with this rubber gasket sealant on the seams, and then they waterproof everything all the way around, and it's sealed on the outside. And in doing business with these guys for 34 years, I've never, ever had a tank leak. And I can't make that statement about all producers of these concrete products. But Wiggins is, you know, they'll stand by a lifetime guarantee on that.
Okay, so the installer doesn't have the option of using an equivalent to like most engineers use? This tank must be used, very specific per this plan?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So it seems to be like a 2,300 gallon tank, 2,300 gallon tank? Is that what it's
No,
a commodity?
2,000.
It's a 2,000 gallon unit. 1,500 gallons of this unit is septic tank, and then another chamber that's separated, and it's a 500 gallon pump chamber. So it's a one unit that serves both purpose, and it's a very heavy unit. We had to do the buoyancy calcs on this because we had flotation issues. So this is what we chose, and it's got a 6-inch extension around all the sides. And that being said, you know, that catches the dirt around the edges to make sure that that stays put. But you've got water just at 55, 58 there, and the top of that tank is 57.33. So that's why we went with the heavier unit that's H20. The extended base on this to catch that dirt, and the extra heavy duty manhole covers. And if you look at the buoyancy calcs just beside you there, you know, it's more than adequate to keep it from floating anywhere. I remember working. Yeah, I remember working actually for another company where it's another engineer that did this design, and he used a 1,000 gallon pump chamber, and the water table came up, and the darn thing was actually floating. I didn't think concrete floated, but I guess it does.
Oh, it does.
Yeah,
Yes,
apparently
I've
so.
actually witnessed it myself personally,
Yeah.
more than once, unfortunately.
This was with dirt over it too, so it was kind of interesting. But then my son, the fisherman, says they have concrete boats, which just jive in my head. But that's, I guess, the
Drove
state.
over a bridge in Louisiana and the pylons floated.
No.
Concrete pylons.
Oh my word, that's kind of scary.
Oh, Lake Pontchartrain.
Oh well, there you go, the biggest swamp in the country. Oh my gosh.
Okay, that's all my questions. Thank you for that information. Bob Palucci, any questions on this one and comments?
I only have one, and it just might be because printing the stuff at home, the writing's so small and my eyes are bad, but it looks like under design criteria, number of bedrooms, it says 3. Is that a 2 or is it 3?
Well, it's 2.
Okay, that's a 2?
Yeah. And actually, if we had more space, which we don't, Title V requests, 3-bedroom as a minimum design, which would be 330, but where you have space constraints, and certainly the wells are considerations here, not only ours, but the abutters. We kept to the 220 design, and there is, in fact, a deed restriction that Mr. Solano has placed on this property, which is a requirement of Title V. And he has to provide that to you before you sign off with the certificate of compliance.
Yeah, I see it was designed for 220. I just noticed.
Right.
I just noticed at the top it on this small copy it looks like it says 3 bedrooms. So I just wanted to clear that up.
Okay, certainly.
Thank you, Bob. Chris Pratt, comments on this one?
Yeah, just a couple. Where was the neighbor's septic? You said was new. Where is that located?
The neighbor, to which side?
To the east.
The easterly side, it's way over on the other side of his lot. It's not even within 100 feet of our proposed well. We put a note on the plan that we are using well water here, and what we've located is anything within 100 feet. We have, anything that's somewhat close, we showed on that plan, but it's probably about 200 feet away. And I guess they had redone their system a couple of years ago too, and what they did too was take advantage of that higher grade to the back of the lot against that stone wall, and they did a very similar situation too.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it wasn't right next to this one.
No, oh no, you got 10 feet minimum.
Right.
So,
Well, we've run into stuff close by before, but so the other question too was, and actually I don't know if anyone else on the board, because I don't think I've seen a tank like that before. I don't know if Ed could speak to it or one of the other board members. The efficacy of it, like how good they work.
When you say you haven't seen a tank like this, as in putting the pump chamber in the septic tank, or
Yeah, like
combining?
yeah, I don't know if I don't think I've seen one like this before.
I can send you the specs on it if you'd like.
Yeah,
The Wiggins, but we use them all the time where we've got space constraints. And once again, it's the weight of this tank. And what it is actually is a 2,000-gallon tank that they separated into thirds, or quarters, I should say, because you've got 1,500 on one side, the septic tank version, and 500 on the end, which is accommodating the pump.
Chris, on your comment, I'll just say, yes, I have seen these, and I've actually installed the same tank in Lakeville, not the Wiggins tank, but the same setup with a variance on several properties in Lakeville. So I know the variance has been granted prior to this one on other properties in town because of the small lots and the high water table, and trying to put 2 tanks in the water doesn't make a lot of sense when you can just use once and not use the 2 compartments, especially being 2-bedroom.
Entirely problematic. You mentioned the reason why we use this, and we've used this over and over again. You could use it for a bedroom actually, but this is just the 2,000-gallon tank separated.
Derek, I know that
Bob?
I've approved
Yep.
these also, but I just don't. I always thought that they had the monolithics. And I don't know, and I'm not, saying different manufacturers, whatever. But the one that you put in, was it monolithic or was it just a 2-piece?
I believe it was a monolithic. That's why I questioned it. It wasn't from Wiggins. I think it was Shea Concrete maybe that had it.
Okay.
I believe it was, I think they can go up to 2,500 gallons monolithic, but maybe like she said, this manufacturer does not have that option.
No, and I went with Wiggins because they're tried and true. I've known them for over 30 years, and as I say, I've never had anything bad come from them. But Shea is in my backyard too, and you know, I've never heard anything bad about any of their products either.
I just personally, we usually require monolithic tanks when they're in the water, like Derek said. So that's my only question.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember maybe one that's been since I've been on the board, maybe. But I think, you know, I was just curious if anyone had any input. And actually, Derek, how did, like, when you installed them, how did they function? Like, pretty good?
Yeah, there's no problem. You have enough reserve in that second compartment at 500 gallons for the high water alarm, and the reserve in the tank for a 2-bedroom. It does make all the calcs. And it just works as a single compartment 15. It does have a Zabel filter going to the second compartment. It meets requirements. And this one does have the big foot on the bottom, which I don't believe the Shea tanks had on the monolithic. So there might be an advantage to this tank with a big foot that they're trying to get uplift from that big foot on the bottom.
It certainly helps.
Sometimes they put the concrete on the big foot there when they need to do buoyancy calcs and they have to add weight. They just pour the concrete right at the edge of the on the 6-inch extension.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, the soil helps as well.
Yeah, and well, I'm wondering how concrete is that more weighty, do you think, than the existing soil that would be there?
Yeah, concrete's 150, soil's 110. So yeah, you do get a little extra weight.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've met, as I say, the buoyancy calcs and then some. Bottom.
In this case, I don't think it's needed, but that's what it's for.
But that's a good consideration. Thank you for that.
And you're going to put risers to grade on all the covers?
Oh, yes.
All right, because the sketch is a little vague on that.
Yeah. Well, we've got, what's the top of the tank? It's 5733, and the finish grade is 5808, so that's your 9 inches of cover.
Yeah, I'm just saying pictorially, it doesn't show risers. It shows little tiny little things.
Yeah,
I think there's a comment that says a riser.
There's a comment, yeah. If you look, it says 9 inches minimum cover, and then it says use 3 6-inch risers to the top.
But I was more concerned.
We like them to grade too, so.
I was more concerned that, you know, all of them, because, I mean, not everyone puts a riser to every cover, and that middle one's big to get to that Zabel filter, right?
Oh, we make them, because you never, you know, middle one not so much, but the ends and definitely the pump chamber here. And they're good wide covers on these units too. They're 20 inches wide, so you can get at them. In fact, we like Wiggins's chamber units, 500-gallon chamber units that are actually a spillover from 1994, where they took a septic tank that was 1,000 gallons, cut it in half, put holes in it, and using the covers with that. And then the observation cover is 20 inches wide as opposed to something like 4 inches in stone, which I'm not too wild about.
And Chris, on the comment on the covers, they are calling for H20 risers and covers, everything to be H20. So they'll probably be steel bolted gasketed covers, not the plastic ones, which I do like with
but the risers should be reinforced, and that was the weight that we got from Wiggins on those covers.
I just didn't see anything to make sure that it was going to be on every whole cover. That's all.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anybody watching, Derek? Because I'm ready to go.
I have a comment.
Okay.
I have a comment too. Let Martin go first, and then I'll comment.
All right.
Martin?
Yes, I'm the north of Butter.
Okay.
I'm the northern of Butter. I just had a few questions. I appreciate what the gentleman's trying to do, and I think it's, you know, admirable. But I have a couple of questions. The first one was, how high will the finished grade be on top of the leaching system, right against the wall? Because you have 58 feet, but if you're going to, the wall is, it's a stone wall is only 2 feet high. Is that going to be?
Right.
I just know what the stone. You know, the stone wall is the border. But
it's
is it going to be a retaining wall for the dirt? I mean, that it's going to have to be put in there, or? Is I just don't want it being so much higher than my property than everything
Right.
draining off onto me.
Well, you've got an elevation of 60 that runs through there, and there's
Right.
a 3-foot existing stone wall there that would be 63, and the top of our system is 6142. So it won't be going over to your property. That was a real consideration for Mr. Solano.
So the 5-foot strip area, strip out, there'll be no touching of that area, or will you be digging right up to the stone wall?
We're going to be digging to within 1 foot of that stone wall.
1 foot of the stone wall.
Yeah.
Is there any go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry too.
Well, is there any regulation as to how far it has to be from the other, because lot 1-13 just had the septic system put in a year ago, and it's
Yes.
not, it's probably, what, about 30 feet away from that? It's a similar type system, I
Oh,
believe.
it's quite a distance away from that. I want to say it's about 40 to 50 feet away from that.
Well,
but
can't
it is
be
very
40, 50, the lot's only 65 feet wide, so it's not 40 or 50
Well,
feet.
it's
on the back.
tucked in that corner from what I understand too. I know Len had pulled the septic plan on that.
No, yeah. I mean, how far apart do they have to be? I'd just like to know.
Well, just 10 feet.
Oh, it's
by
just
type.
10 feet, okay.
Yeah, but obviously, you'd like to have a little bit more room, or at least I do.
So in that 5-foot strip out, they'll be dug, but there'll be nothing in there, just dirt. You're just going to put dirt.
Oh, it's Title V certified sand. And that's what we've got to use underneath the system and around it, because we're stripping out subsoil that we can't use as anything that would surround the SAS.
Can the person walk on it or drive up on it, or
Well, you can walk on it, but
walk
you don't
on
want to drive anything on it. No.
All right. My only couple last questions is: are there any vents coming out of there? I just want, because it's so close to the property line, I don't want to.
There is a vent.
There is a vent.
There is a vent.
How
You
far
tie units into one big pipe, and there is a vent.
Right here.
But what we do with these vents is we put a cap on them. That's a charcoal vent. So it's pretty unobtrusive. It's not that U-shaped candy cane kind of thing. These have covers on them that can be replaced from time to time, and the charcoal actually takes down any sort of odor from that.
So if I'm 5 feet on my side, 5 feet away from the wall, I mean, I'm not going to smell anything, or even
You shouldn't.
You shouldn't. All right. That's what I'm worried about.
I mean, if you do, you might want to talk to Len and have him replace the charcoal filter on it.
No, I appreciate what he's doing. I just want to say to the board, I appreciate you answering the questions. I'm in favor of this. Okay, just as long as the finished grade isn't higher than the stone wall, and that the stone wall isn't moved around. That's all. Isn't falling down.
Right. No, that's a monument. We don't touch them.
Right. It's been there for a long time.
Yeah.
It's in my family since the 40s. So that whole line there. So all right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Derek, can I jump in?
Yes, go ahead, Bob.
I couldn't see that on the plan. So if this system's going halfway up, just that stone, I thought that was a retaining wall. If that's just a stone wall and this is going 1.5 feet up it, there should be something there, right, to hold it back, because that wall's not going to hold it back.
Right, just a marking wall, right.
Yeah, there's that rough coat barrier that's all against that side.
That's just a rubber liner, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's not going to stop the weight of the dirt pressing against that a stone wall.
Oh, it will. I mean, you can take this rough coat liner, I call it a liner, but it stands up by itself. It's very rigid. And within that, we put our strip out material within.
Derek, I'm sure you've used them. What do you think?
I don't know this specific name and brand of liner. The liners I've used mostly definitely would not be used as a retaining wall, in my opinion. I mean, it's pretty strong, but it's by no means a retaining wall. That's why I was questioning that 6142 of what you need for the minimum 9 inches over the field and the existing grade of 60, and you're only 1 feet from the property line on both sides, how that dirt was going to be. You can slope up from there to the system, but you only got 5 feet to go up that 1.5 feet, which is pretty abrupt.
Yeah, but the top of that wall is probably at around 63, somewhere around there.
Correct. But I mean, you're not going to be able to fill to that wall, are you, and use it as a retaining wall, or because that's not on your property?
No, we're going to use the rough coat barrier, as I say.
Okay.
And the only thing that's
Uh,
going to be above that rough go barrier is the 9 inches of cover material, which will be sand. So it's not going
Ed,
to affect that wall in any way.
okay.
Yeah,
Ed,
I mean,
your comments on that theory? I'm
Well-
not sure I'm sold on it.
a barrier cannot be a retaining wall because it has to be filled on both sides. You know, so you would have to fill on the leaching field side, and you also have to fill on the other side because the barrier itself has to be covered. Otherwise, the sun will just eat it away. So it has to be covered.
That's right.
The question is, what are the grades by the wall there? And you do have the 60 right there in the corner, but we really don't know what the grades here are. So it's kind of tough to say. I mean,
Well,
you have a
top-
58 here. Is this
Okay.
what? Is this
The
at
top,
59 here, 59.5, or 58.5? That's the question.
the top of that barrier is at elevation 60.67.
Right. And then you have the elevation 60 there, but what's the existing grade right around here? That's the question.
It's about, let's see, that would be a little bit less than the 60 in there. So probably around 59.5.
I mean, if you're putting 6 inches up against the wall, you're probably okay. But if you're putting a
Yeah.
foot and a half, then you got an issue. You know,
Right.
so it really depends on what that grade is.
Well, it's not just that either, right? That 5 feet then is gonna slope towards that, so, right? They're just from runoff, not from the septic field itself, but just from the water on top of it, that's all gonna be pitched towards that wall.
Right.
Well,
Right,
no,
yeah.
if anything's going to pitch, it's going to go downward. There's nothing being pitched towards that town stone wall because that wall itself and that area above the stone wall is quite a bit higher.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you had spot grades over the field, I think it would be easy to see, but it's kind of tough to know, like what Bob's saying, which way it's going. I mean, we know the D box is running off the D box, but it looks like everything north of the D box is going to go to the wall. That's the way it looks now.
Well, you've got it so that you're, probably like 2.5 feet below that wall. If that makes any sense to you. And the highest portion of that SAS is above the D box. It's always the D box that's the highest point.
Right, and you have the 60-foot contour around there. But
that's existing, right?
No, well, in the corner it's existing, but all of this here is fill. And the question is, this section right here, from this point to this point, that's where it's going to be filled. Because this is 60 right here, so that's existing grade. You really don't need the retaining wall in this small section here. It's the rest of it right here. And as Bob has said, if you're just doing the minimum of breakout and just covering the breakout and going to a 3-to-1 after the barrier, then it's gonna go towards the wall. Because like I said, when you do the minimum, you really can't control it. It's when you have to give a couple extra inches to start to control the flow of how it's gonna flow off.
I just don't think that it's going to affect that wall at all. I mean, the finished grade on the entire system is 61.42.
You can grade it so it doesn't affect the wall. There's no question. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
But you would have to put it a little higher.
You mean the strip out? I'm not getting what you're saying.
You would have to put, if you're just doing the minimum grading over the field, you would have to go a little higher to do the 2%. So you still have the minimum at the edge, and then in the middle, it's going to be a little higher. It's going to be about 3 inches higher.
Yeah, well, it's going to be higher around the D box.
Right, but not just the D box. You'd have to do the whole field and
Yeah,
actually
well,
grade it out.
that's without saying. Yeah, and once again, those grades to the rear of the property here are quite a bit higher. So there's not going to be any runoff or anything that would be affecting any of that adjacent property.
And one other question on that. What about the right side, Ed, where the grade shows 60 and
Yeah.
that liner is 1 foot away from that contour of 60, and that liner is 60.67?
Right.
We're only talking inches, but like Ed said, that liner definitely has to be covered. You can't see that liner when we go back for a finished grade inspection and see the liner showing as a retaining wall. So you feel you would be able to cover that liner at 60.67 and 1 foot contour at 60 grade?
You're talking less than a foot.
Right, but less than a foot's 9 inches. That's considerable.
But the top, that barrier is only at 60.67 anyway. You know, I mean, you're talking, what, 6 inches, 8 inches?
8 inches, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's
And you're still a
considerable.
foot off the property line itself. I mean, we can put that liner if you want within that 5-foot strip out, if that would satisfy anybody's needs.
No,
You know, I don't think it's necessary. And once again, you know what, we should have had the surveyor peg some lines behind that stone wall, and then it would give her a better representation of how high that grade is. Or, you know, just take a ride out there. And I mean, if you've got any concerns, we're very open here. Anything that you think that should be changed or could be improved on this difficult project, we're all ears.
I'm not questioning the breakout. I'm fine with that. I'm talking about in the 5 feet from the wall to the top of the field, it goes up. So the water obviously on that section has to run against the wall, unless you're using the wall as retaining, which you're saying you're not. So that's the question. I understand under the ground the line is going to stop the breakout. I'm talking about, though, you're saying that the top of the field is higher, and then it's going to slope back down to the bottom of the wall because you're not going to fill up onto the wall. So in that whole area, any water is going to run downhill to the wall. It's not going to run up the hill and then over the septic and come back down.
Well, you're in less than 2-minute soils with these strip out soils. You know, I don't see any runoff going anywhere, to be quite honest, not in these soils.
but no, you have topsoil on top, is what he's saying, and you do have runoff on topsoil.
Well, topsoil, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got 9 inches of topsoil, 9 inches of cover. But we can make 3 inches of topsoil and, you know, 6 inches of sand. But the majority of that's going to go completely downward or towards the house itself. It's not going to make any sort of a detrimental effect against that wall that's already been existing there for hundreds of years. And again, it's a 3-foot wall, and we're 1 feet off the property line.
Can I just chime in maybe to the board and Ed? I mean, I'm looking at it without really putting like one row of block. I'm kind of skeptical it's going to actually be covered. The only other option I could really see is move it closer to the owner's well, 3 or 4 feet, and move it closer to the abutter's well to like 81 feet instead of 84 to give you more room to get that liner away and grade. But would we want to move it closer to the well to?
Well, I mean, what we could do is put a small, like 1 foot.
That's where I'm going.
Line, but it looked kind of crazy against a 3-foot wall. You know, I mean, that's, you know, we're open to any suggestion, but I'd rather not reduce any distance to anybody's well or septic.
Okay. But I'm actually more concerned on the right-hand side, I think, to hold back, or you're going to have to fill onto the neighbor's property a little, which you really can't do because that grade is
higher on that side of the property. You see where that elevation 60 goes in.
Yeah, but your line is at 61, 67, 1 foot away from it. So I know we're only talking a block. It's not a huge. It's just a row of block.
I mean, if you want a row of block there, I'm sure that Len would more than accommodate anybody's wish that if you wanted to see that, especially on that side. We try to keep it as simple as possible, and given the grades are quite a bit higher as you go up in that northerly direction, you know, we just felt that was.
And then even, you know, at the time of construction, if we get out there and that topo is off a little and that 61, 60, 67 top of liner is the grade there, you would need to. I mean, if you can cover that liner. I just think being close to that neighbor's property.
Well, if you want a block wall there, you know, so be it. I feel concerned, but certainly we defer to you guys. You know, what you might be regarding this.
Yeah, Derek, see, I think you get finally what I was talking about. Yeah, I think we need a row along the back and the right-hand side, or else we're going to be grading down into the wall, and that's not a structural wall. So that's the point I was trying to make. Not the breakout, not the line, and not anything else, just that you can't grade that septic system those 2 directions without diverting the water those 2 directions without a row of block.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly. I think that wall would almost need to be 62 to make it pitch to the front at 61.42, the minimum cover. I think Edward said it was like 3 inches we need to cross that field at 2%.
Well, understand that strip out is only surrounding the SAS at an elevation of 67.
Okay.
You know, and what we grade from that, we could certainly get a 2%. But that, you know, that's a consideration. You know, but as I say, if you feel more comfortable with a block wall around that, so be it.
Okay. Chris, do you have any comments on that? What?
My God, I think I was all set. I agree with you guys as far as that grading. It's tight in there. And then Ed had one more thing too. I don't know if he's got back in here yet.
Yeah, I'm back.
He's back. He called me because his computer crashed. So there's one variance missing.
Yeah, just you're in a zone A, so we need setbacks from both the leaching field and the septic tank. I'm going to try to share the screen.
I'm not getting you. What do you mean a zone A?
You're within 400 feet of the pond.
The surveyor said we had about 500 feet, but I'm not so sure.
I can bring it up. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it was pretty close, and at first glance, I
Yeah.
didn't get it, but then when I turned it on, let me share the screen now.
Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 lots down. But I thought the surveyor pointed it out in his site plan of 400 feet. But certainly, if you want a request from that, absolutely.
So you're
no
right
problem.
here.
Oh, thank you.
So 27 Pilgrim is about half in, but 29 Pilgrim is all in Zone A.
Okay. Well, that's a nice overlay you've got.
Yeah, so that's, and this is long.
Yeah. Can you email me that, please?
Sure.
That'd be good.
All right, so it's these 6, an additional, what would the 7th one be?
It would be 2. It would be a reduction from the leaching field and a reduction from the tank, because neither a tank nor a leaching field are allowed in the 400 foot without a variance.
Okay, so there'll be 8 altogether.
Correct.
And the one local for the 2-compartment
Yeah,
tank.
one local, exactly.
All right,
So
that's
we'll-
not on here either, so now we're up to 9.
Yeah.
That's so we'll amend the variance request then?
Reduction to the field. Reduction.
Yeah, it will have to be on record, but I
Okay.
mean, whether they,
Yeah, that makes sense.
Well, I'll make a motion now, but we'll need the new plan before, it'll be subject to the, getting the new plan, spelling it out properly.
Okay. And you're comfortable with the 2-foot block wall around the edges there of the SAS?
Yep, that's what I was gonna add on.
that. Okay. All right. And can you guys put that in writing and email it to our office, and I'll run it by Tony too?
Yep. Are you two ready for me to make a motion?
I'm ready, Bob. I agree with everything. And so it'll just be subject to the actual distance to the pond. They're going to have to scale and get those 2 more variances, but we're going to approve it and let Ed take it from there. Is that
Yeah,
what we're going
I'm
to do?
fine with that. Now, what, this
you
gives
want
you
to fill
the
that-
map in a lot, but not the house number on this, letter. What's the actual number? 29.
29 Pilgrim.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion that we approve 9 variances. The 6 that are on the letter dated July 21st, 2020. The 7th, that will be a reduction to the leaching field from zone, what was it?
surface water supply.
Yeah.
From the water supply.
Can I just jump in? Number 7 would be the variance on that 2-compartment plant tank, because Ed wanted me to request that. I think Ed, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
local.
And number 8 would be the zone A, 400 feet. of the
Does it matter what order I go in?
Not at all.
Oh,
All right, then can I finish?
But But I'm trying to do Title V first and then address Lakeville, if I can put this in order for you guys.
So we're up to 7, Bob? We need the last 2?
Well, it seems like there's a problem now, so I guess if that needs to be done, I'll change it to make 7 now I'm all messed up. All right, so 7 will be to give a waiver for the 2 different tanks to use the 2,000 tank for $1,500 and $500 for the pump chamber. 8 will be reduction of the leaching field distance to. Do we know the distance, or do we just say from that?
We
Ed.
don't know. Ed, I'll let you answer that one. Ed, you there? I don't
Well-
believe we have distance yet.
We don't have the exact distance. It's probably, it's definitely over 200, could possibly be over 300, but yeah, I'm guessing at that point.
I can scale it off that plan and give us a pretty good definition. But regardless, it's less than 400.
Yeah, so from less than 400 to the leaching field, I'll leave that up to Ed to make sure that the right distance is filled in. Number 9 will be a reduction from 400 for the tank. And then with the additional condition of a 2-foot wall going along the back and the right side of the retaining wall to go along the back and the right side of the system of the field.
Okay, so can I read these back to you just to make sure that we have them correct here? We have the first 6 variances from Title V as we had listed. The 7th is the Lakeville Board of Health variance for the 2-compartment tank. And then the 8th variance that we're adding is the less than 400 feet of the SAS and septic tank to the Zone A. That would be our 8th variance. But in addition to that, you want to see a block wall, a 2-foot block wall on the north and easterly side.
I thought we needed 2, one for the tank and one for the field from
Bob,
the
you're
400.
correct. You're correct, Bob.
Yeah, so,
Right.
so 8 was for the tank and 9 was for the field.
Right. Okay, so you want them separately then, okay.
Yeah, and then we're adding the condition of having a 2-foot wall on the
Yep.
northern wall and the eastern wall. Yeah.
I agree.
Second.
Right. Second, any discussion? All those in favor, Bob Palucci,
Aye.
Chris Pratt,
Aye.
Derek Maxim, aye. Thank you for that. Next on the agenda.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Sandy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on
While
one
you find
second.
the
'cause-
paperwork, I'll be right back.
Okay, yeah, I lost it, Chris, so yeah, you're gonna have to bear with me. I don't know
Oh,
what I
that
do
made
with
it worse. All right, I'm running out of light here. Let's get these
Okay.
other ones going.
All right, I'm gonna keep going on. Chris just ran out for a second, but I'm gonna go on to 7 Carey Street. Chris will hopefully be back in a minute. It's amend betterment agreement in the amount of $39,340. This one had previously come to us prior for a betterment, which we did approve. The previous approved amount was $19,775. When the installer went to install this, they hit ledge. I'll just refer to Ed for a minute to clarify more on it, because I don't know the exact circumstances. I think they had to put in a pump system. They had to raise the system to get 4 feet above the ledge. So it went from $19,775 to $39,340.
Wow.
So we're actually approving a revised betterment loan. Is the reasoning, and I'll just let Ed talk to it for 1 second. You there,
Yeah,
Ed?
It's pretty much what you said. We thought there would just be big boulders, but the boulders were enormous. And whether it's ledge or not, there are little crevices between the boulders, but they're just too big to get out of there. So it was actually less expensive actually to raise a system and bring in a pump chamber because, like I said, there was so many boulders there.
Okay.
Chris, are you back?
I'm here.
Okay. Did you get any of that? We were kind of going forward without you.
Yeah, I got the gist of it.
Okay,
All right,
so,
I'll make a motion then that we approve the betterment increase to $39,340 for, is that 7 Carey Street?
correct.
For 7 Carey Street.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Bob Palucci?
Aye.
Chris Spratt?
Aye.
Derek Maxim? Aye. Okay, that's done. Next. 43D committee. I know it does say B on the agenda, but it is D. We continued this from last meeting because it wasn't posted. Recommend a board member to be on this committee. We discussed it the last meeting. I believe we were going to go with Chris.
Yeah.
You wanted to be the board member? You still good with that?
Yep.
The election. Okay.
It's too late because that's what I'm gonna do. But hey, I have a question, guys. Remember the last time when I went to get sworn in and when I saw Lillian, remember how I said that the selectmen didn't have to approve us, that we're our own board and we appoint our people? Lillian said I was correct. So I know at that meeting I had asked them to check on that, and I guess maybe it just got dropped in the cracks, but Lillian, who knows that stuff inside and out, said I was absolutely correct and that we didn't need to we didn't need to vote to have the selectmen appoint us or anybody else we want, that we're elected officials and that's for us to vote. Because I knew for 11 years I never had to ask the selectmen to appoint anybody. So I just, first this should just get squared away down there with them. But I don't think we're going to recommend Chris. I'm just going to I'm going to make a motion to appoint Chris to the 43D committee, unless somebody has a problem with that.
I was told we didn't even have to vote on it. It was just, hey, you go do it. But then all of a sudden now it's become a thing we're going to vote.
Well, we always voted on all the committees. I used to be on wage and personnel. I used to be on one of these type of things years ago for the hospital. We always voted to put the person on it, because I guess you're going to be voting on it. So by us voting to you to go, you have the authority to vote on our behalf. So, so I'm gonna make a motion that we appoint Chris to the 43D committee.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Bob Palucci?
Aye.
Can Chris vote for himself on this one, Bob? Do you know that?
Probably shouldn't, to be safe.
I'll abstain.
Derek Maxim? Aye. Okay, you're voted on that 43D committee, and we'll send that over to the selectmen. I'll just jump in for 1 second to Ed. I think Ed had sent me something on that selectmen thing in an email. Ed, did you get clarification on what?
Yeah, so there are certain ones. I think Bob's correct in there, whereas for assistant Board of Health agents and stuff, you appoint them. For someone like myself, I guess since I work under the building department, I had to get appointed by the selectmen to be the milk inspector.
Correct.
And, so I am an exception. And I think, the animal inspectors, they're like, they have to be appointed by the selectmen as well. But appointing Chris as a 43B or as an assistant health agent, then you guys do that.
Yep. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the animal inspectors, I think, is us, but the animal officer.
That's by the state, right? The animal inspectors, don't they get appointed by the state? We just select them, I guess?
Yeah, but
No, I think the state has one, and then I think we have our local ones approved by the board, I believe.
Yeah.
we always vote on Jared and
Yeah, the assistant. We have 2 of them.
the
So
assistant.
I just made it more confusing by using that as an example, so just forget that.
All right, well, this is squared away anyway for tonight. So
Okay.
now what else? Now,
All right.
and the only thing we should do is because when we made those motions that night, I think I said that if needed to be gone to the selectmen just to cover us either way, we should just make sure that those votes were correct when we appointed each other agents. If you have time to go back and look in case we have to re-vote again, but because I was pretty sure that we had to do that. So if I didn't put language in there that if needed them to appoint, then we might have, if we just voted to have the selectmen appoint, we probably would have to go back and vote again so we can go out and do inspections and stuff just to be on the safe side.
Okay, I'll have Ed just look into that. You can get back to us on that one?
Yeah, but
Okay.
I'm pretty sure that you guys can appoint yourselves as health agents.
Yeah.
Assistant
Okay.
health agents.
Yeah, but I think the night we did it though, that's when it first came up that it said I just want to make sure we didn't vote to have the selectmen appoint because they're not the ones who do that. You know what I'm saying? I just want to make sure we worded the motions properly the
Okay.
night we did that. All right, and it's too dark here. I can't read anymore. So if there's more stuff, somebody else is going to have to do it.
All right. What, discuss soil evaluator license renewal? Chris, I'm pretty sure we're all set with that. I just put it on there. I didn't remember if you were set with that one. I believe that has been paid.
Well, somebody paid for it.
Okay, so we're good with that. Okay.
Yeah, we voted to pay for it out of our budget.
I thought
Okay.
so.
All right, we're going to jump onto old business, discuss any pending items. I just want to turn it over probably to Ed for a second on that one. Just maybe bring up anything with Corona or Triple E briefly.
Yeah.
Before-
So many of you know we had a case of Triple E in Middleborough. Middleborough and Carver are now high risk. Lakeville got upgraded to moderate risk. This is very early in the season to get a human case. So there is a lot of concern out there that this could be a tough year for
Sorry to
Triple E.
interrupt real quick. Didn't they raise Middleborough to critical? And us to high? Oh no,
Yeah,
we're moderate, but Middleborough and
moderate.
Carver are critical, and Rochester and some other town are high.
Carver.
Yeah, you're probably right. But Lakeville's moderate.
Yeah, we're moderate still.
But still, that's considerable risk since Middleborough's right there, and like that was the case. So yeah, it is concerning. August is the peak month for infections. A lot of people don't know they're infected till September when they get diagnosed, but this is the peak month. So just please, for everyone out there, please use please limit your hours after dark and use mosquito spray. And if you know whether it's your house or your neighbor's house, anyone with standing water, please let us know. We need to. I mean, it's not too late to stop the new mosquitoes from coming in. Anything we can do is going to help. So please notify us if you do know a lot of standing water. And you have a neighbor who's not doing it, we will talk to them. For Corona as well, Lakeville is doing very well. But Massachusetts as a whole there is an uptick in cases in Massachusetts. So we still have to be concerned with that because obviously, people come into Lakeville. It's not just Lakeville people. So with all that, a lot of people are kind of letting down their guard after, we did so well for so long. But the uptick in cases is mainly, they think, from gatherings, and most of those are backyard gatherings and house gatherings. Most of the stuff in restaurants is pretty well controlled. But just there are so many with small high school graduation parties and other backyard barbecues and even in-house parties. There's been definitely an uptick in cases, and we're just so keep aware of that and avoid it if you can.
Okay, can I just chime in on that for a second too? And it's public health, so I think we can, if we consider it an emergency, we could vote if we had to, or else we could just let Ed know we're okay if everybody is. In years past, whenever we've had Triple E, once we got to high, we've always shut down all the parks and fields and everything from dusk till dawn, which used to aggravate the haunted house people to no end. But that was a past practice we've done every year that I've been on the board that we had it. If you guys agree with that, we should just, we shouldn't have to have a special meeting to vote on it. If you don't agree with it, then that's fine, and you can tell Ed and we can put it on the next meeting, but that's how we've handled it for 11 years.
Oh, okay, Bob, I have a quick question on that, Bob. The high risk would probably mean when we actually have a human case in Lakeville, we would be at high risk. Am I correct with that, Ed?
Correct. I mean, I'm assuming that's one of the things, but as well, I think if several of the surrounding communities around us had cases, they would still put Lakeville in that category. I'm not sure of the exact definition of what high risk is, but
it was as soon as they raised us to high risk.
Yeah, a human test positive is what gets you to critical. So Middleborough jumped from moderate to critical with that human positive test.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I was looking at it because I'm on the health and safety committee on my day job, and I've been telling everyone to keep an eye on it since the first positives in Carver a few weeks ago, and then Middleborough. I figured we would get positive results in our town right after Middleborough, because that's usually the way it goes. They're like, all these towns fall like dominoes. As soon as one gets it, usually within a week, the rest of them have it. I'm surprised our pools haven't come back positive yet,
All right, I would agree with Bob Palucci on that too, if we'd like to make a motion to give Ed the authority. If, we only meet every 2 weeks, so if it does jump to critical in Lakeville, he can immediately issue a closure from dusk to dawn on all public parks. Are you okay with that, Chris?
Were you entertaining a motion?
No, I was just stating I did not entertain a motion.
Well, I just want to clarify. I believe Ed can check. In past years, we did it when we got to high risk. Do you want to push it until critical, until somebody actually gets it in the town?
I thought Ed said it went to high when somebody had it.
No. Chris said when someone has it, it's critical.
Okay.
And I think he's right.
I think we probably, if we had positive tests already, we'd probably already be at high. I think, they want to avoid people getting it. So I think it's when it gets to high, it kicks in the shutting down the parks and all that stuff. So we don't get to critical, hopefully.
Exactly.
Okay. I'll agree with that. You agree with that, Chris?
Yeah.
Okay, make motion.
I'll make a motion that we give Ed the authority, if Lakeville gets to high risk, that he can close all the fields and town properties from dusk till dawn.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Bob Palucci?
Aye.
Chris Spratt?
Aye.
Derek Maxim? Aye.
And just to clarify, it should be outdoor activities, not all activities. I'm sorry.
Okay. Ed, you okay with that? Any questions?
Yep. No questions.
Okay. Anyone else for any other items? Bob Palucci, do you have anything on the old items, or that was it? We good?
I'm good.
Chris Spratt, anything on the old items?
Not that I can think of now, no.
Okay, one other thing on it. Review and approve meeting minutes as typed for May 20th, 2020. All three members were present. I have read through it. I have no questions on it. Bob Palucci, any questions on it?
No, I'm good.
Chris Spratt, any questions?
Nope.
Somebody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We approve the Board of Health meeting minutes dated May 20th, 2020 as typed.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Bob Palucci?
Aye.
Chris Spratt?
Aye.
Derek Maxim? Aye. That is it. Any announcements? Anything else? I believe we've pretty much touched on everything. Ed, anything?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Bob Palucci?
Aye.
Chris Pratt?
Aye.
Derek Maxim? Aye. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.